This next one, man, I've heard repeatedly from friends, and I've even heard it from acquaintances, and I've even heard it from TV. But it goes, Deru Kui Wa Utareru. Have you heard that one?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so it translates to the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. This proverb warns that people who stand out, whether by talent, opinion, or behavior, are likely to face pressure to conform. And it's a reflection of the Japanese cultural emphasis on group harmony, known as wa, and the avoidance of disruption or conflict. So repeatedly on this podcast, you've heard me talk about how Japan focuses on social harmony. There's a lot of things in the culture that keep tying back to it.
XQ Sumimasen.
Welcome to another episode of the XQ Sumimasen Podcast. I'm your host, Saul, and joining me today is Devin. What's up, man?
Hello.
In episode 25, I said that a good medicine to take for hay fever is bufferin. That's not correct. It's actually called paburon. This episode is not sponsored, by the way. I need to say that. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about like Japanese proverbs and how they kind of tie into the way Japanese people live, and not just Japanese people, but like people who, take them to heart. And I was actually interested in learning this stuff myself. So I'm hoping we can, enlighten ourselves and by extension, enlighten everyone who's listening. The first one we have goes, Nana Korobi Ya Oki. Have you heard this one before?
No, I have not heard this before, but I see that what it means in Japanese. Korobi. Korobi means fall.
I've actually heard this one from Kato and from Hiro, but it translates to fall 7 times, stand up 8. So you can kind of guess what it's going to mean.
Mm-hmm.
But let me read the information I have. This proverb embodies unwavering resilience, emphasizing that it doesn't matter how many times you fall. What matters is that you get back up. An example anecdote would be the practice of this thing called kumitaiso, or the human pyramids that they do in Japanese school sports festivals. So have you seen those? Because like my kids have done them.
Dude, yeah, I've seen them. And where I've seen them is your kids, when you invite me over to come check out Undoukai.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I see it, I'm always moved.
Yeah, it's because you can see like when they do it, they stumble. Some of them, like the kids will fall off or they have a hard time getting up. But the person who's doing the MC, like he just lets it run until they get it. So they really let them have a chance to overcome that challenge in front of a crowd. And I really have mad respect for that.
Yeah.
One thing I also wanted to note is that kumitaiso, that human pyramid thing, is actually becoming controversial in Japan.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some pretty extreme cases where like somebody might have hurt their arm or something like that. Yeah, I feel like they shouldn't, in my opinion, shouldn't stop it, just because it does teach kids, when you have a hard time, it doesn't mean you should quit. It means you should, double down and keep going. One global parallel that I found is that the English proverb, if at first you don't succeed, try again.
When I read this, it made me think of Joe Biden.
Why did you say that?
He gave a speech where they were rumors that they were gonna replace him, and then he said, "Yeah, you know what? You know what happens when you fail? I'm not gonna give up. If I get knocked down, I get back up." And then everyone, woo! And then I think 1 month later he quit. Or something. Oh man, that was really funny.
He got dementia right after.
Jeez.
Yeah, but I have some information actually about that English quote. If at first you don't succeed, try again.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this, so I feel like it's pretty interesting. While often attributed to American educator Thomas H. Palmer in his 1840 Teacher's Manual, evidence suggests that British educational writer William Edward Hickson popularized it earlier in his 1836 publication, The Singing Master. I do not know either of these, but I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then Undoukai is like the perfect, or Undoukai, for people who don't know, Undoukai is the sports festival that we were talking about earlier. But that's the perfect thing to illustrate the quote, Nana Korobi Ya Oki, because there's a lot of segments and it's very different from America. Actually, at the very end of this episode, I'm going to give in detail what Undoukai is. We don't have those in the States. And stuff that is similar in the States, typically you wouldn't expect parents to watch, right? It's just the kids and the teachers and everybody.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that at the very end.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing that.
This next one, Man, I've heard repeatedly from friends, and I've even heard it from acquaintances, and I've even heard it from TV. But it goes, Deru Kui Wa Utareru. Have you heard that one?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so it translates to the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. This proverb warns that people who stand out, whether by talent, opinion, or behavior, are likely to face pressure to conform. And it's a reflection of the Japanese cultural emphasis on group harmony, known as wa, and the avoidance of disruption or conflict. So repeatedly on this podcast, you've heard me talk about how Japan focuses on social harmony. There's a lot of things in the culture that keep tying back to it. And this proverb is one of them. An example anecdote would be, in many Japanese schools or in the workplace, showing too much individuality can be discouraged. A student who always speaks out or an employee who constantly questions decisions may be seen as a disturbance rather than a leader, which is very different from America. And it's not because excellence is unwelcome. It's because it can challenge the group's cohesion. If I'm looking for a global parallel, there's no direct English equivalent, but the closest common expression might be this thing called tall poppy syndrome, which I just learned researching this.
I think
and it's a term that's popular in countries like Australia and the UK. And it refers to the tendency to criticize or cut down those who achieve too much or stand out.
I mean, it's not even like you think you're too good for us. It's more of like a don't do your own thing or something like that.
Yeah.
Get in line. Which, kind of similar, I guess.
Yeah, that tall poppy syndrome actually reminds me of how The Rock used to always say, know your role and shut your mouth. But yeah, I have a cultural note though. A lot of the listeners come from Japan. I don't know if they're Japanese because it doesn't say, but for the people in Japan who happen to be Japanese who listen to the show, this cultural note is for you. Mm-hmm. In American culture, a different value is celebrated from the Deru Kui Wa Utareru. The individual who stands out is often rewarded. This is summed up in the saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, which is pretty old, but I remember hearing this as a kid. And this one encourages speaking up and self-promotion. And the contrast highlights a fundamental difference. While Western cultures often prize individuality and assertiveness, Japanese culture has long prioritized cohesion and social balance, which we keep getting back to that, even if that means encouraging people to blend in. We talked about in a previous episode, you were talking about how someone told you that the teacher will tell kids to fall in line, or they kind of get mad at them and stuff like that.
Yeah, from that documentary. Yeah. And you know this as a parent for many years now, right?
And I definitely know it as a foreigner living in Japan because I dress differently. My body type is very different from the average. My face is very different. My friendliness, openness, I guess.
Yeah.
Because if you're in the city, the people in the city are going to be different from the people in the country. And, they apply different rules to different situations, but everybody knows those rules except for us foreigners. And I just apply myself to every situation. And then I end up being either talked down to or ridiculed or whatever the case may be for them to try to hammer me back in.
It's so humbling getting hammered down. But I should talk about, it's my personal experience with this phrase, is when I was, before I moved to Japan, I was working in Boston. I was really interested in like startups and technology and that kind of culture or whatever. And one thing I was curious about when I moved out to Japan was, Japan, everybody conforms and is like whatever, conservative and all the same. What are all the startup companies doing in Japan? And I was just Googling around, and then there was this one event that was trying to encourage Japanese people to be more like entrepreneurial. And one of the titles of the event was, this was part of the title or part of the description was, Japanese people, you know this phrase, Deru Kui Wa Utareru, whatever, getting hammered down. We have to change this mindset so that we can spur more entrepreneurs in Japan. So I remember exactly this phrase from that time, 2015, when I was thinking like, oh, wow. So there are people thinking about this cultural value and needing to change it, I guess, through this well-known phrase in order to get people to be entrepreneurial or something like that. So yeah, that was interesting. I remember it to this day.
Okay, so the next one I've actually heard also from Kato and from Hiro. And this one is Juunin Toiro. You heard that one?
No.
It means 10 people, 10 colors. And it conveys that everyone is different, with each person having their own preferences, thoughts, and personalities. And it literally translates to 10 people, 10 colors. It symbolizes the diversity among individuals. An example anecdote would be bento culture in Japan and how it illustrates the concept. So just imagine no two lunch boxes are the same. And some are aesthetic, some are functional, and others they tailor to specific diets. But if you notice, like your bento is going to be different from... Do you ever have a bento in your life?
You mean other than buying it at the convenience store?
Not the kind of bento. I mean like the kind where like your wife or yourself, you make it and then you bring it to work.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. My wife used to make for herself, but I never had that for me.
Oh, man. Maybe one day. Because for anyone listening who doesn't know, there's this term in Japan called aisai bento. And it means like a bento filled with love or something like that. I don't know how to word it exactly, but I learned it when I was working in Saipan because I showed up in the lunchroom with my really fancy Japanese bento container. And they're like, wow, that's so cool. Where'd you get that? And I was like, my wife brought it from Japan. And she made my lunch. And then the person I was talking to was Japanese. And she goes, oh, so you got the aisai bento. Ine.
Oh,
nice.
Wow. So it's like, so this has to do with 10 people, 10 colors, because this is like, wait, you said it illustrates this concept because it's so customized, so individualized for one person.
Yeah, like I said, some of them are aesthetic. So you can imagine like those bentos where it has like a panda's face on it, like the way they MacGyver the nori, like it looks really decorative. And then some are just functional. Like it's just like, if you're like me, it's going to be like you get that big bento case that, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it's like 3 times the average serving of rice. So you just jam that full of rice. And then even the okazu or the entree, I guess, the container for that is huge. And it's just like this cylinder. And then you like unscrew the top and it's like $30 at Don Quixote. I love that thing, man. And that one is functional, not aesthetic.
Yeah.
And then there's, of course, the ones that are tailored to specific diets. So like if you have diabetes or if you're just trying to watch your weight or something like that. But everyone's is different.
Yeah, it's like to the extreme. Like in the US, I guess we have this idea of like a pack lunch, like your mom packs your lunch or something. But you don't even do it. I guess, in the 50s, I guess women used to do it for their husbands or something like that, who were working on I don't know, some factory.
Dude, I'm so old. Let me just put some context, okay? Saipan, even though we have US passports, the pace that our society grows is behind the United States by, I would say, 10 to 20 years, in my opinion. That's why I said I'm so old, is because I remember going to kindergarten with a brown bag lunch, which is something like people haven't done in the US since like, what, 1970s? I want to say.
So you had a brown bag lunch in kindergarten?
Yeah, I remember my mom fixing me those brown bag lunches. And then getting back to the Juunin Toiro, 10 people, 10 colors. The global parallel to this would be the phrase "to each their own," because it expresses that personal preferences differ and should be respected, right?
Wait, so this is completely the opposite of getting hammered down.
Exactly. Yeah, I chose this one specifically to put it there because it's the opposite. The confusing thing is that Japan respects individuality, but to maintain social harmony, you want to keep that on the down low. Is what I'm saying.
Keep it on the down.
And I have a little bit of information about the "to each their own" saying. So that one is actually a loan translation of the Latin phrase, which goes "suum cuique," which sounds like a Avengers, like alien language, but it translates to each his own. Exactly that. And the concept dates back to ancient times. And it was actually used in Roman legal tradition. So that's how old it is, like crazy old. To each their own.
It's so crazy because, of course, Japan, like humans are humans everywhere. It's all the same. But Japan figured out a way to just categorize it differently. And so they say, oh, yeah, of course, 10 people, 10 colors, you're different, whatever. Just, keep it on the down low. And we're going to do this hammer gets hammered down thing so we can do some stuff.
Oh, dude, I got a perfect analogy to this. If we combine Deru Kui Wa Utareru with Juunin Toiro. You can imagine those craftsmen who are really talented, like knife makers, or even that guy who makes like those crazy omurais in Kyoto. Like he can like really fast like make it and like throw it from the fry pan and lands on the rice.
Yeah, I've seen it on YouTube. Yeah. So what it's like, of course you can stand out, have your personality and stuff, but within a boundary. Like that guy, he's Japanese and he does whatever. But he doesn't like break the rules. He doesn't like make sure he's all like compliant and everything. And when he's outside in society, he just bows and stuff like that. And then on the inside, that's how it works here.
So the next one goes, Saru mo ki kara ochiru. You heard that one?
No.
Yeah. So of course, you know what it means. It's pretty basic Japanese. And it goes, even monkeys fall from trees. And this one means that even experts make mistakes or no one is perfect. For example, they have this thing in Japan called kintsugi, and that's the art of repairing broken pottery with gold lacquer. I've seen this on Facebook. I've seen it on Instagram. I've seen it on YouTube. They don't always try to hide the crack, but they try to highlight it, like I said, with gold lacquer. Yeah. And then the flaw becomes part of the object's story and its beauty. And it's pretty much a reminder that imperfection doesn't erase value, and that even when something or someone breaks, it can be restored to grace, even though it's different from how it was originally.
But that's crazy because Japan is known for perfection, like refining, like whatever sushi, doing it to the most perfect thing. I guess like also, but experts, like expert sushi guys or whatever, expert culture, they also have this value, I guess. Even monkeys fall from trees.
Yeah, I love that one. Even monkeys fall from trees.
Yeah, I like this.
All right, so a global parallel I have, it would be even Homer nods. And I didn't know this one before I did the research. But it's from Horace's Ars Poetica.
Okay.
And it actually means that even great writers make mistakes.
For Homer, like the Iliad and the Odyssey, Homer?
Yep, that Homer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Ars Poetica. Even great writers make mistakes. Yeah, nobody's perfect doesn't really capture this idea very well.
Yeah, it sounds like an excuse, right? You say like, oh, you messed up.
Yeah,
nobody's perfect, man.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
But you would never say like, they say like, dude, you messed up. You wouldn't say, even monkeys fall from trees. That's more like something you would tell somebody who messed up and you don't want them to feel bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The next one goes, Ino Naka no Kawazu Taikai o Shirazu. This one's pretty hard to understand. Even for me.
Yeah.
But it means a frog in a well doesn't know the ocean. I've never heard that one before, but I like it.
I have no. What does it mean?
It suggests that a limited perspective can make us ignorant of the wider world. And this one actually originates from a Chinese fable attributed to the philosopher Zhuangzi. And it illustrates how narrow experiences can limit one's understanding. Let me give an anecdote so that there's more context. This saying is actually often directed at students or young individuals who haven't traveled extensively, and it encourages them to seek broader experiences and maintain humility about their knowledge. I don't know how the humility ties in, but that's just what I found in my research. The global parallel would be the English phrase, thinking inside the box.
Think out?
No, this one is talking about thinking inside the box.
Okay.
Because you're talking about a frog in a well that doesn't know the ocean.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it reflects the idea of limited or constrained thinking, which is, of course, a mindset that overlooks broader perspectives or possibilities. Just like a frog that's unaware of the vast ocean because it's in a well, right? It only sees straight up into the sky. And it's interesting that Japan has this proverb, which actually encourages people to broaden their horizons, right? But because it's in a proverb, it's not really like you just telling somebody, hey, you're dumb or something like that. It's kind of nudging them, right?
Yeah. I was going to ask you what you think about this idea, because broaden your horizons, thinking outside the box, whatever, doesn't match up with Deru Kui Wa Utareru, because it's like, why would you waste your time thinking outside of the box when you're trying so hard to like think with everybody else? Why?
Yeah, but you have to remember Juunin Toiro. So 10 people, 10 colors, right? So you want to create your own color, but you want to blend in with the canvas.
Yeah, like what the omurice guy does.
Yeah, he blends in beautifully. He stands out as his own individual self, but it fits in as part of the whole.
Wow. So that means that here in Japan, the correct thing to do, and I think I remember even Kato telling me this. I think maybe even you told me this before. It's like, okay, here in Japan, fit in first before you stick out. I think I even heard that from somewhere before. But it's like you got to first know all the rules, follow the rules, fit in, conform, do everything before you stick out. And maybe that's what this is. It's like all these sayings and stuff is like, first get in line. Then you can do your own thing afterwards and make sure it's in line. Don't go too far.
I actually have a good example of the Deru Kui Wa Utareru situation in a bad way.
Okay.
So I had this coworker. I used to work for a real estate agency, and I had this coworker that I would meet up with every Thursday. Like she would only come every Thursday. She was like a part-time accountant, and she would come down, and then we would like have some drinks after, just chop it up. And she messages me out of the blue, like in like 2015, which is like 6 or 7 years. I haven't seen her, right? And she's asking me for advice, and I'm like, "What do you need advice for? I'm not like, I don't know anything." And then she tells me that she's working for bank, and she goes to this corporate party. When she's at the party, she starts mingling with the executives from America. And while she's doing that, she's getting salty looks from all the high-level people in the Japanese division or whatever you call it. Eventually, she gets fired without knowing why. She starts talking to different people and finds out it was because they thought she was trying to take their jobs by mingling with people who could speak English because her superiors couldn't.
Yeah.
And she sues them and she wins. And then she ends up leaving Japan. I don't know where she is now. I haven't spoken to her in a very long time, probably 10 years.
Yeah, this is somebody you know.
Yeah, it was a perfect example. And it actually led to legal action. And she won. I want to note something, though, about a frog in a well doesn't know the ocean. They have this proverb that kind of tells people that they should broaden their horizons. And yet, statistics show that fewer than 20% of Japanese people can comfortably hold a conversation in a foreign language. I'm not choosing English specifically here. And only 8% are actually fluent in English. In that case, I am. And then you add that to the fact that less than 20% of Japanese citizens even hold a passport. I did not know that until doing the research for this. And only 7.7% traveled abroad in 2023. And it starts to feel like the proverb is more aspirational than reflective. So it's like something you should strive toward, not something that is like you should live by. It makes sense too. Having lived here for 14 years, I mean, I can say that I've met my share of people who have no interest in ever leaving Japan. They just say like, Japan has everything I'll ever need and ever want. It's beautiful. They have good food. Why would I want to go anywhere else? I've had this conversation with more than one person. I was like, okay, yeah. So the next one we have goes, Hana Yori Dango. It translates to dumplings over flowers. And I didn't know about this one.
This means that if you're to choose between one, always go for the delicious one.
I would assume. But this one actually suggests that substance is more important than appearance. And that indicates like the preference for practical benefits over aesthetic pleasures, right? Like an example anecdote can be during Hanami or like flower viewing?
Sakura season, Sakura.
Yeah, like in Japan when the sakura is blooming, which is happening like
now
next week, I think, in Kasai. But yeah, during the Hanami parties in Japan, attendees often focus more on enjoying the food and drinks, such as, for example, Dango, which is the sweet rice dumplings, than on admiring the actual cherry blossoms themselves. So you see people getting wasted, right? Having fun, just eating. And this actually exemplifies how the proverb emphasizes valuing tangible satisfaction over aesthetics, right? But since we're talking about Dango, that reminds me, there's this character on Japanese TV my kids see sometimes, and it's called Zenmai Samurai. You ever heard of that?
No.
So the story goes, he was a clumsy thief named Zennosuke, and then he died after a failed robbery and was resurrected by the god of fortune. And then the god also attached a wind-up key to the top of his head that only rewinds when he does a good deed. And then to stay alive and earn his freedom, he has to complete 108 acts of kindness. The god gave him a weapon called a Dango, which is a sword that has dumplings skewered onto it. Jeez. And then he shoots the Dango balls into bad guys' mouths, and it makes them go from bad to good.
Oh my gosh. That is the most mushroomed out story I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's like a really Japanese classic anime. Like when you see the art, even when you see when you see it on TV, like it looks, you know how old movies have those like little dots that pop out all over the screen? Yeah, some episodes have that. Like it's
so this is a really old anime. They still show that today?
Yeah, you can see it on TV every once in a while.
Wait, so why did you bring this up? Oh, because of the Dango.
Yeah, he has Dango on his weapon. Do you like Dango?
Like the ones that are covered in soy sauce, like the soy sauce kind of savory ones.
So the next one goes Minu Ga Hana, and the translation even sounds kind of confusing, but it goes, "Not seeing is a flower."
No idea what that means.
That sounds like something I would find on a Japanese t-shirt.
Yeah, English.
It's written in English. The meaning is that reality often fails to live up to imagination. This proverb suggests that what we don't see, what we only anticipate, can sometimes be more beautiful than the real thing.
Oh yeah, okay.
Super makes sense. We'll talk about that. But an anecdote can be, for example, if you think of the excitement before a festival, often the planning itself and the build-up that leads to the travel or whatever, and the dreams that we attach to it feel more magical than the actual event. And the global parallel would be the English proverb, "Don't meet your heroes." This is the closest one I could find. It's not the exact same, right? Because it reflects the idea that imagined experiences or people are often more appealing than reality, and that some things are better left idealized.
Yes.
My personal experience with this one, the first time I ate at like a really good ramen place in Tokyo.
Oh, really?
I talked about it in a previous episode. It's called Tonshin. Yeah. And I ate there once and it was magical. And I was like, oh my God, I had never had anything like this. It's the greatest creation a human has ever made. Anyways, I ate it. I loved it. And then I didn't eat it for a while. And then it kept building up in my head, the excitement of going again. And I was like, man, I can't wait to go back. It's going to be magical again. And then the second time I went, I was like, it's all right. I mean, it's good. It's the best I've ever had, but it doesn't have that magical value to it anymore. Probably because, everything in Japan, knock on wood, everything in Japan is pretty good so far. I really like that one. I mean, the positive side of it, where the excitement is better than the actual trip. This is definitely not always true because like last year I went to Universal Studios Japan in Osaka and we were there for like 3 days. And, we're of course excited to go there, but being there was way more fun than planning it for me. I had a great time. I mean, we went to the Harry Potter world. I'm a huge fan of Harry Potter.
Wait, so you're saying this is an example of when the experience was better than the planning? Like the opposite?
This is where Minu Ga Hana doesn't apply.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, that's good. Well, like, man, okay, even for me, like, I guess a great example of this would be planning for my wedding, where this doesn't apply also. I don't even think we were like imagining. We were just too busy, like exhausted, trying to figure out all the details. we couldn't even imagine. We had no energy to imagine anything. So anyway, yeah, this doesn't apply also.
The next one goes Ichi-go Ichi-e. You ever heard that one?
No.
Me neither. But it means one time, one meeting, which again sounds like one of those t-shirts where you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to explain it.
Like super deep, but has no meaning.
It's like Confucius say, one time, one meeting. Yeah, this one emphasizes treasuring every encounter as a once-in-a-lifetime event, recognizing that each moment is unique and cannot be replicated. And an example anecdote in Japanese life would be, for example, the traditional Japanese tea ceremonies. And for this situation, Ichi-go Ichi-e reminds participants that each gathering is unique, encouraging them to cherish the moment as it will never occur in exactly the same way again.
Yeah.
The global parallel goes, while there is no exact English equivalent, phrases like live in the moment or the saying attributed to Heraclitus, you never step in the same river twice, convey a similar appreciation for the uniqueness of each experience. But yeah, it means the river one means that every time you step in the river, it's a different piece of water. So you're never exactly stepping in the same piece of water, right?
Have you ever done a tea ceremony thing, like a real or participated in?
No, but this one really reminds me of this scene from The Last Samurai where Tom Cruise's character walks in to one of the houses and like somebody's doing the tea ceremony. And I was like, wow, because you can see how like they really like they bow and then they like perfectly like try to do everything as robotic as possible. Like it's like really planned out. And then doing the research for this show, like I learned that these are not rooted in one religion. They're actually rooted in 3 of them. There's the Japanese Shinto. Mm-hmm. There's Confucianism. So I said Confucius say, and even Buddhism. But I couldn't find out which one came from which because some of them are so old that they just don't know. Yeah. So I just decided to leave it out. But yeah, they're rooted in multiple religions.
Yeah.
And that reminds me, like when you're thinking one time, one meeting, I found this YouTube channel and it's a Japanese guy. I think he's Japanese. He looks Japanese. He speaks Japanese perfectly. But somebody told me like he might be Brazilian or something, like half or something. Anyways, it's called Yakishima Travel TV.
Okay.
And it's this guy who, at least the parts that I saw. So like there's these videos where he goes around Japan to visit different onsens, the hot springs. And he'll eat the food at the hot springs. And the way that he eats it, like it's so, like he's really trying to live in the moment, like really. Because like he'll look at the food and then show the camera to the food. And then he'll be like, oh, look at this magnificent meal that has been fixed for me in Japanese.
All right.
And then he'll take a bite of it and be like, oh, this is meant to be the perfection combined with the beauty of nature. Like he just like really talks so poetic. Right. And after seeing so many of his videos, I decided to try eating the way that he does. Not saying the speaking the weird way that he does, but to just like savor each bite, to really chew it and think of the ingredients and think of the effort that the person put into that meal for you. And then when I did that, I was like, wow, you can experience food differently if you actually do that. It sounds corny. I know it does, but it works, man. It works. At least for me. Because you really have to own it. You can't just be like, let's try this out. No, you have to like really be serious.
I don't know if I can do that, man. I'm so used to like I've gotten my day-to-day routine to where like I'm thinking about nothing at all except for like what I want to do that day. So like even eating is the same exact, I eat the same exact thing every morning. And then for lunch, I eat the same exact thing for lunch. And I take less than 10 minutes to do both. And I'm just like shoveling the food into my mouth so I can just get on with my day. I don't know if I can. I mean, maybe for like special occasions, like dinner we have together and stuff, I should try to savor every moment.
Dude, if you want to try going, I went to this ryokan in Gunma with my family maybe 5 years ago. The owner is my wife's classmate from elementary school and very nice lady. And if you want to check it out, like I can ask Mai for the contact information. It's in Gunma. If you watched the previous episode where I talked about this convenience store that had like spider webs and stuff like that.
Oh, we've talked about this. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think I know this this story with that.
So you remember previously in the previous episode we talked about the convenience store, right? This is the place that I'm talking about.
Okay.
So this ryokan is very nice, and then the food that they give you is crazy good, and they give you like I think it's called kaiseki in Japanese, but it's like this giant platter with all different kinds of food on it.
Yeah.
And they're seasonal. And then you also get, if you want to, you can order like beer or whatever if you want to drink alcohol. My 2 younger ones, of course, cannot finish that. So I had to eat like 3 of these massive
Holy God.
platters. It was so delicious, man.
Wait, did you have trouble finishing it all?
Yes. But, go hard or go home.
So that's like, so you really, That's part of the idea of kaiseki too. It's all it's seasonal, so it's like they really try to make it like in that moment kind of meal. Yeah, send it to me. I want to.
Okay, man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that experience was so nice, man. Because the room that we had like tatami and everything.
Gunma. How did you get out there? Just by train?
Yeah, mostly it was train. We took the bullet train. So we arrived at the station, and then a representative from the hotel picked us up, or from the ryokan picked us up.
Nice.
They have a van.
Like
so
a shuttle.
if you if you get a reservation, they have that shuttle.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. I want to try that.
Okay, so the next one we have is Ishi no ue ni mo sannen. And this one translates to 3 years on a stone.
I have heard this.
Okay, I haven't. This one emphasizes that perseverance and patience will eventually lead to success, even in the harshest conditions. The imagery suggests that even a cold stone will warm up if sat upon for 3 years, symbolizing the rewards of steadfastness.
Oh my gosh.
And an example anecdote is this saying is actually often shared with new employees or students facing challenges, encouraging them to persist through difficulties. Mm-hmm. And it serves as a reminder that improvement and success take time and consistent effort. Global parallel can be, for example, the English proverb, patience is a virtue. That's like a perfect one.
Yeah.
And the patience is a virtue actually dates back to the 14th century, appearing in William Langland's poem, Piers Plowman. I don't know this poem. I don't even know that guy, but I just wanted to give an extra fact about the English parallel of 3 years on a stone.
So I heard this from Kato, who told me that for the first time. And I guess what you're saying is easy to remember is like, honestly, I was just talking about this with my wife the other day. 3 years on a stone or something, because we're talking about work and like, changing jobs or whatever, stuff like that. And this just kept coming up in my head. And I remember bringing it up the other day because Kato told me that when he talked to his old boss, who's like an older, traditional Japanese man, he was talking to him at his old job saying like, I'm thinking about maybe leaving or doing something else. And the boss kind of like looked at him like disappointed and said that saying. And then he told me that story. He's like, I remember him saying that to me. So in Japan, they say, you gotta wait at least 3 years before you quit or something like that.
Oh, okay. That's the first time I heard that one. So it's applied directly into the Japanese workplace.
Yeah. Like before you think about quitting, just wait at least 3 years.
Okay, so the next one actually is the last one. And this one goes, Kuchi wa Wazawai no Moto. This one sounds like one of those haikus. Have you heard it before?
No.
I only know that Kuchi means mouth, and that's it.
Yeah, me too.
So Kuchi wa Wazawai no Moto. And this one translates to the mouse, what the I just turned into Mr. Katakana there. And this one translates to the mouth is the source of disaster.
What does that mean?
I love this one. Because once I get to the meaning, it's going to make sense. This one conveys that careless words can lead to trouble, emphasizing the importance of thinking before speaking. So, an example anecdote, in Japanese workplace culture, gossip or speaking out of turn is heavily frowned upon. Silence is often considered a virtue, reflecting the value placed on thoughtful communication. And the global parallel is the English phrase, loose lips sink ships, and serves as a comparable warning about the dangers of unguarded speech. This slogan actually originated in World War II, and it was used in American propaganda posters to caution against careless talk that could inadvertently aid the enemy.
I think I got this in like some kind of training at my current company where they talk about the difference in business etiquette and business culture between the East and the West or something. And they say, if you're ever having a meeting with the Japanese people, don't be put off by when you're asking some question or something and there's no reply. It's just silence for a little while.
Yeah.
Silence is okay. Where you say like, oh, what do you think about this? And they go,
Yeah. They're respecting you by trying to give you the best answer possible.
Yeah.
Instead of just blurting out whatever pops in their head. So earlier we were talking about undōkai, right?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to explain for the people listening who don't know what undōkai is, like to give a detailed explanation comparing and contrasting the US or the closest US equivalents.
Yeah.
Let me first start with what undōkai is. And it's an annual Japanese school sports festival that emphasizes teamwork, effort, and school spirit. And it includes races, dances, tug of war, cheer squads, and group performances. You and I have actually joined the tug of war multiple times.
Yes.
And I've been in the relay races too. And it involves students, teachers, parents, as I just said, and the local community, including you, because you, of course, are not my kid's parent. And then parents often attend these and they bring lunches, they cheer, and they even participate, as I said. And these things are usually held on weekends or holidays to encourage family involvement because they want families to come. And the key values from these are cooperation over competition, endurance and perseverance, known as gaman in Japanese, and community and family participation. Also, collective achievement and school unity. Something that you don't really hear much about in American schools, unfortunately, at least from my experience. But the US closest equivalent would be elementary school field day. But that one is casual and it's short duration events held during school hours. And that one's focused on fun, basic physical games like sack races and relay races. And it's supervised by teachers and staff. And then parents don't typically attend unless they're like doing volunteer work. And I remember doing field days when I was a kid.
Me too.
And I never saw my parents. And then there's pep rallies.
Yeah, me too.
You did those too?
No, I didn't have pep rallies, no.
Okay, so at my high school, we had pep rallies all through high school. And these ones aim to boost school pride before sports games or events. And they feature cheering, performances, and themed dress-up days, which we did all of that. And they're held during school hours for students only. So I never saw a single parent doing these things. And then there's no physical competition. So you just try to show your school spirit. And then the teachers or whoever will judge, or there will be judges, and they'll judge which class seemed like they had the most school spirit, and then they win. At least in my school, that's how it worked out. But the main differences are, let's say, for example, the duration. In a undōkai, it's pretty much all day. So you go there early in the morning, you end up going back like late in the afternoon. If you watch all the grades do their stuff. And then in the US equivalents, it's usually only like a few hours. It's not the whole day. And then there's also community involvement. In undōkai, the parents and even the extended family attend. So like grandparents can join too. Not during COVID, but it's back to the way it was before. And then in the US equivalents, it's just like internal. So no parents, no grandparents. And then even in emphasis, so in undōkai, it emphasizes teamwork, discipline, and full participation. But the US equivalents, they focus on fun, informal games, and individual enjoyment. And then there's also cultural value. Undokais are deeply embedded in Japanese culture and education. Like everybody does it, everybody knows about it. But in the US, it's considered light entertainment focused tradition. So like not everybody does it. You said yourself, you never did a pep rally, but you grew up in Saipan.
Did you see like any positive like changes in your kids at all after like the experience or anything? Where they're like, oh, a little bit more confidence or something like that?
I cannot compare who they are to who they could have been if they were in Saipan, obviously. But I do, there's a part of me that wishes I grew up the same way that they are.
Really? That's cool.
Partially. Not entirely. I appreciate how Japanese schools focus on teamwork and getting people to be able to cooperate with each other. And I appreciate from American schools how they try to build up your individuality into something that can be greater. Yeah. Because that's not something you really see in Japan. Yeah. And if you can combine those really well, I think you've got a recipe for kids to become, the best that they can be.
That's the thing. Like I always thought is like you have to choose one or the other. Or is there a way to combine them? It seems like you have to choose one or the other. I mean, if you want to...
I think the best recipe would be to choose the one based off of where you live and then at home do the part that's missing.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Supplement. Nice, cool. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if you keep this in or not, but I was just curious because you have invited me to multiple undokais for your kids. And every time I go, I'm always shocked in a positive way.
If you think we missed any proverbs that maybe have affected your life, especially if you live in Japan, let us know and maybe we can cover it in an episode too. But that's it for today's episode. So if you have any questions or comments, or if you want us to add anything, let us know. And until next time, excuse me, Masan. See you.